This is a mental health disclaimer. Now, before we get into it, you guys, just a heads up, I am not a certified mental health professional. What I share here is based on personal experience and my opinion. If you are dealing with a serious mental health crisis or you need to speak to someone immediately, reach out to a professional. They know what to do and they have you. The information and advice I give are for general insight, not a substitute for professional help. Your choices are your own, not mine. Let's do this journey together. And remember, it's all about personal growth. Now let's get into today's episode. Hello, my butterfly family. Oh boy, do I miss y'all. Unfortunately, I was not able to go live last week, so I had to do a pre-recording. I hope you guys enjoyed it. But this week, we are going to go in deep. We're going to go in real deep. So, welcome to Becoming a Butterfly Podcast, the place where it's never too late to become your better self. I am your host, Christina Butterfly, also known as Chrissy O the Artist. And I'm so excited to be here with you guys for another live, y'all. I'm so excited, y'all. Today's title that we're going to talk about is surviving mental health disorders, and how I had survived over 30 attempts of me trying to commit suicide, and how I got to a point in my life when I just decided to choose me instead of choosing death. And I know this is a sensitive subject, so definitely you see the trigger warning sign strolling on the bottom. This is definitely will be a trigger warning. It's a sensitive topic, but I'm also hoping that my story can help encourage you, that my story can help you fight. If you hearing this, and I truly believe before I go live, I truly set my intentions and ask God to allow my podcast to reach whoever needs to hear it. Now, I need to be more proactive of actually doing an actual prayer, but I set the intentions to say, like, Lord, please, I just want whoever needs to hear this, hears it. Okay? So that's what we will be talking about today. Now, before we get into today's topic, I just want to go over a real quick recap of last week's episode, last Thursday. And last week I talked about unleashing your authentic self-discovery, and unveiling your true colors, like exactly who you are. So before we get into this week, I just want to make sure that, we go over just a little bit real quick, so I can make sure that we all stay mindful, and not forget the lessons that we learn. And it's for myself as well. I recorded these podcasts last year, to be honest with you. And so listening to them as I edit, it's like, yeah, girl, you need to hear your words. Because, a lot of times we can give the greatest advice to other people, but you sure enough can't do it for yourself. And it feels that way, that you can't do it for yourself. But I assure you can. It takes a lot more work, a lot more reassurance, a lot more of self-awareness, a lot more of radical responsibility. But it is absolutely possible. Absolutely possible. So just to go over the 5 steps, because we're not going to go over 5 steps this week on the topic that we're going to talk about. So we're just going to go over real quick of what we talked about last Thursday. And the first step was reflect on your true self. Consider your passions and your fears. Okay. And understand that fear that you're feeling is just the unknown. It really is. It's just the unknown. Your body doesn't recognize that you're just going into something that's different. It just feels, you recognize it as fear. All right. So just reflect on yourself, know who you are, stand on who you are, know what your passions are, and know what do scare you, and ask yourself, is this something that I should be fearful of? Is this something that I'm just afraid because I don't know what the outcome is going to be? Right. At some point in life, we just got to accept that we're never going to know the outcome. We just not. We got to just do the best that we possibly can. Stick to it. Refuse to give up. You know, like us as Black people, we know we are 10 steps behind. We are behind especially when it comes to finances and being, I never can get the right word when I'm looking for it, but to that financial gap. You feel what I'm saying? Like it's such a huge gap for us, and we gotta be the ones who take the charge to make that gap smaller. And the truth is God gave us all we need to be able to do that. You know, that little creative little gift that you have. Social media technology allows for us to be able to do it. So know what your passions are and know what your fears are. Number 2, reject society norms and celebrate your individuality. Like we've really, truly, y'all, we got to reject the things that we was taught and raised with our whole lives. Listen, I was raised underneath the church. And if anybody watching me right now on Facebook who knows me personally, first of all, I need to see some butterflies. I need to see some butterflies, some hearts, some loves. I need for y'all to put something in the building. I need some stars. I also need for you to put some butterflies in the comments, because if you know me personally, you know that I was raised underneath the church, y'all, underneath it. Okay. My mother is saved, sanctified. Okay. And I'm grateful that she raised me with faith, but I also choose to walk a different path on how I believe, you know what I mean? And how I choose to worship, and how I'm grateful that my mother gave me that foundation, but I had to form it for me. You understand me? And it's not what society would deem normal, you know, or would be seen acceptable. But at the end of the day, I don't give a damn, because I'm walking this life, this earth. I'm doing this thing alone. I got family, I got loved ones, I got people who love and care for me. But when I wake up every day, I wake up in this bed by myself, in this skin by myself. And I got to know that what I believe in is true to my core, you know, and stand on who I am. And I can't have this fear of what my mom may think or what anybody else may think or feel about my choices and how I choose to live my life. You know, even my choice of being a content creator, choosing to be a YouTuber at 44 years old. Some can be like, girl, stop it. Are you serious? Like, are you serious? If you can do this, then you can get a job. No, I can't. That's why we're going to talk about living with mental disorders, because it's not that simple. You know what I mean? But I also don't want to live in poverty for the rest of my life. I refuse to accept that the only thing I'm ever going to be good enough is waiting for a Social Security check to show up every month. I refuse it. And we were giving the gifts, we were given the technology, we were giving everything we need to be able to change the destiny and trajectory of our lives. We just got to make the choice to do it, right? 3, experiment with new activities and broadening your horizons. Like, please, guys, try something different. Try something new. We get so accustomed to the mundane. Like, people don't want somebody inside of town. I grew up in Philadelphia, and I can't imagine. I can imagine never. Like, I never been on the other part of town. Like, never. I can imagine if I never went to West Philly. I ain't really do South Philly, but I certainly been to South Street. Living here in Trenton, I have met people who won't walk from one block to the next. Trenton is 7 miles. Understand that your prison is the prison in your mind, and how small you keep it is your choice. So make a choice to do something different. Go somewhere you never went. Listen, I used to drive. When I first got my truck and I lived in Philly, I used to drive to get lost. Like, I just wanted to get lost. I would use my GPS to get back home, but I would go down directions and turn down roads and go in places I've never been and never seen before. And y'all, oh my goodness, I know I had to be near some some famous rich folks, okay? Like, I know I had just to smell the air. You feel what I'm saying? But you gotta step out of your comfort zone in order to reach anything great. And we can't keep sitting back complaining about our lives if you're not gonna do anything about it. And if you think your 9-to-5 job, I hope you invested. That's all I'm gonna say. If you only thing you want to do is just your 9-to-5 job, the way the economy is going, I pray to God that the least you're doing is in investing. I get it. That just might be it. I don't want to do nothing else. I don't have no interest in anything else. Okay. Please invest. Please do something productive with the money that you have and that you're saving. Because if you're living like that, I'm sure you're saving. So make sure that your money is not just sitting in your savings account and it's not growing and it's not making you wealthy. Because whether you understand it or not, your money is supposed to work for you, not the other way around. One of the reasons why I refuse to ever again trade time for money. So I sit here in front of this camera every single week, record podcasts every single week, and put all this energy out in the beginning because I know once it reaps back, it's going to be an abundance. It's going to be an abundance. It's going to blow my mind. But I have to believe that it's possible. I wasn't always like this at all. We will talk about it. Number 4, building a supportive cycle that values your authenticity. Your supportive circle, I'm sorry. Build a supportive circle that values your authenticity. Now, for me, I'm so grateful. I have family members. I have people who knew me for a long time. People who was watching me on Facebook. People who know my journey and support me. Support that I am a 44-year-old YouTuber. You feel what I'm saying? And in another lifetime, maybe a few years ago, saying that at 44, it sound like you a 44-year-old rapper. You know what I mean? Just trying to come out. But I chose myself. And in doing that, I created the people that support me, and the ones who don't, I kindly let them go on about their business. I don't even spend the energy to try to convince them that what I'm doing is the right thing to do. A lot of times people need to show and tell. They need to see that it worked for you in order for them to make it work for themselves. My goal, though, is to get people to do this journey with me, to get on this train with me. Let's reach the level of success, wealth, and abundance together so we can take our money together and put it back into our own communities ourselves and not sit back and waiting for other people to do it or keep waiting for gentrification to come to your neighborhood like it did to so many others. At some point, we got to take responsibility, guys, that we're not doing what we need to do to create the lives that we have to have. We can't keep blaming the system. When we are part of the system and we're comfortable with the system, right? So build that supportive circle and the people that is going to carry you. I have a good friend that I grew up with. Shout out to my sister Chanel. And I'm going to get her information to her. She sells desserts, but we grew up together. We grew up in church together. And she recently was on, I believe, Good Morning Philadelphia. And it was just like, yo, it was so dope. And she's doing this, literally baking her way to her success. And she had many jobs, y'all. She was a guard at prisons. Like, she had many jobs. And at the end of the day, she found her peace through her art, through her gift. You understand what I'm saying? Like, and that gift that God had gave her naturally, she always cooked. She always baked with her grandma. That gift that she had naturally is now going to turn her into a multimillionaire. It's going to build that business to be something she couldn't even imagine. Okay, listen. And she had to create that support system. We have to have them people around me. For me, I have cousins, I have loved ones who will literally call me up and say, girl, you doing that podcast? You doing it? I got a cousin that I speak to every week. And if we don't talk every week, every other week, but we ain't going through a month without talking, uplifting and supporting each other. I'm pushing him to start his podcast. He's making sure that I give up and I stay encouraged. You know what I'm saying? I got a spiritual group that I have that I can go to, and we can come together and we can pray together and we can grow together. You understand what I'm saying? But we got to make these choices to do these. We got to make the choices and decisions to say, you know what? I'm going to be the best me I can be. Surround myself with the people that's going to love and support me, and then and stand on being my true authentic self. Right? And last but not least, live life genuinely, expressing yourself freely and boldly. Listen, guys, you see my hair right now. Y'all ain't seen it yet. I will have all kinds of colors in here. Your girl is an artist. I love color. I love to stand out. I love when I walk in a room, you'll be like, whoa, I'm never going to be like anybody else, and understand we're not. And if you are trying to keep yourself from not reaching your greatness, you're not living your best life. You're not being genuine to yourself. Whoever it is, whoever you are, believe in that. Know that God didn't make no mistakes when he created you. Your weird, quirky self. I know I'm weird. I've always been weird. You know, and it used to make other people uncomfortable, and in turn it made me uncomfortable. And then I had to learn that it is not my job to dim my light, put on some shades, or turn up your light. Do you understand me? Like, it's no longer the time for you to be walking around feeling less than because you don't want to outshine your neighbor. And you are supposed to be the brightest star. Understand that bright star, that star is to be followed. By you not living in your true purpose, you're blocking somebody else from their blessing. If I didn't start my podcast, it's somebody who needs to be encouraged, who needs to be uplifted, who needs to feel love. And if I ain't never start this podcast, it's just a chance that they wouldn't get it. Somebody needs this blessing. And it's my responsibility to show up the way God has told me to show up, so that whoever needs to be blessed can get it. With no questions asked, because I'm doing my job. All right. So those were the 5 of reflection of what we went through last Thursday. This week is going to be a little sensitive, y'all. It's going to be a little sensitive for me. So just bear with me. If you enjoy this content, if you feeling this, if you yourself have been through some things and you can feel like you're alone. A lot of times we can go through stuff and just feel like we're just so isolated and so alone, and nobody gets us and nobody understands us. But I'm here to tell you that none of us are never alone. There are a selected few people to go through selected few things, so that God can always show support and growth. And how you can be better is somebody else who's going through something right now that you went through 10 years ago. If we don't stand in our authentic self and be true to who we are, you can't bless them. So this is the reason why I decided to do today's podcast on me surviving mental health disorders and overcoming over 30 suicide attempts. That's hard to say. It's really hard to say. And I remember there was a time that's all I wanted. Every time I woke up, I would be angry at God for allowing me to have to see another day. Because living with mental disorders is very difficult because nobody cares. It's not like having heart disease, you know. You can see that. Diabetes. People gotta understand that. Go to the doctors, you get your medication. But when you're diagnosed with a mental disorder, it's not really understood. It can be pacified or passed off, pushed off. It can be treated as if it's not that big of a deal. Or you're just crazy. I know for me, people would do things and my reaction to it would disturb them, as if not understanding that living with mental disorders and having triggers that can, for you, it's your feelings and your expression it feels justified. But everybody else around you is telling you that you're overreacting. One of the hardest things about having mental disorders and living with a mental disorder is the truth is nobody gives a fuck. Nobody cares. And the truth is nobody's supposed to. Once I understood that I could not continually use my mental disorder to be an excuse for a behavior, but more as learn how to see it as a way of being able to understand myself and other people better than I can even ever imagine. Because see, you got to do a lot more work to control yourself and your emotions when you're chemically unbalanced. And we ain't going to even talk about the medication. See, my first time sitting in a therapist's office, I was 11 years old. My mom couldn't understand why I was stealing money from them and giving it away to kids at school, and why all of a sudden I became this magnificent liar, and how she couldn't believe anything I said. I was a manipulator. I would get, oh my God, I was like the worst big sister. What my mother didn't know is that I was being molested by our uncle. As young as 4 years old. What my mother didn't understand is that her little girl was being violated. So all of a sudden she's seeing this little girl with different behavior traits than she was recognizing. And it was getting worse, and it was getting worse. And let me tell y'all something. My mother was whooping my ass, y'all. And see, I'm the oldest. If you're the oldest, put an experiment child in the in the building, in the chat, because you'll know that being the oldest, you're definitely being experimented on, because your parent has not a damn clue of what the hell they are doing. Not a clue. My mother took her cues from her mother. Her siblings did something they had no business doing. Her mother pulled out that extension cord, put her that cat nine tail, the branch off the tree, and whooped their ass, right? So that's what my mother did to me. It got to the point that when she was whooping me, I wouldn't even cry. So she thought it was something wrong with me. So the very first time that I've ever was diagnosed with anything was 11 years old. And they diagnosed me with manic depression, because you can't diagnose an 11-year-old with bipolar disorder, right? Throughout the years, my parents tried to manage it as much as they could. All the way up till September 23rd, 1994. And it was the day that my father took... I'm sorry. September 23rd. I hope I said that. I think I said 24th. But September 23rd, 1994. And it was the day my father took his last breath. And it triggered a break, and I was gone. From the time I was 15 to the time I was 24, I was consistently in and out of the mental hospital. My mother had to hide every single pill she had, because my choice of trying to self-harm myself was to take every bottle of pill I can find. I never forget, I woke up one day, and to give you a picture, I gave birth to my daughters July of 1995. And God saw fit to give a 16-year-old twins And let's keep in mind, I turned 16 in June and I had the twins in July. So I still was technically 15. And my little brain couldn't comprehend it. I couldn't comprehend that how within a year I lose my father and gain 2 babies, and I never, ever wanted to have children. God, I'm so grateful for them children of mine today. And know, whatever's happening in your life, God know what He doing. He know what He doing. But at 16 years old, I was admitted to Charter Fairmount Mental Health Hospital. It was the very first time that I was in a mental hospital. Well, the reason was I woke up one day and decided to take a whole bottle of ibuprofen. Get my daughters ready for school. I went to William Penn High School in Philly, and in that year, William Penn decided to put in a daycare in the school because it was just an epidemic. Teen pregnancy became an epidemic in the 90s. And so I believe it had a lot to do with when drugs came in and the parent is now addicted, and there's no guard in the home. For me, and the crazy thing is that it truly, your neighbors, it's supposed to be a community, right? Because my parents wasn't having it. However, I'll go over my girlfriend's house and, anything can go over there. You feel what I'm saying? So, because their parent is addicted to drugs. And so it became for me a time of pure hell. See, another thing my mother didn't know is that the day my father died, I decided to go to my favorite uncle's house because I needed to be as close to my father as I possibly could. And that night, my favorite uncle decided to touch me. The sick thing about it is that I made sense to me in my head, because the truth is, it's been happening to me since I was 4 years old. So I started believing that this was normal, that this happened in every family. And then if they happen to touch you, you just close your eyes, squint, and it'll go away. And see, I had the type of family who they didn't use violence on the girls anyway, to keep us in line. You have a mother that is extremely strict and saved and sanctified and plays no games. Well, the option of being at my mother's house just seemed to fit better, right? I mean, to be at my uncle's house just seemed to fit better. And I would just have to deal with this creepiness in the middle of the night out of nowhere. But all day long, I did whatever I wanted to do. But yet, I still would come home and see these babies I didn't want. My father gone. Me and my mother had a horrible relationship. I had 2 younger sisters. And I felt the weight of the world that was on my shoulders that I did not want. And all I wanted to do was run. And to not wake up. That used to be my prayer. Lord, please don't let me see tomorrow. Unknowns to me, my mother was praying just a little bit harder. Just a little bit harder. My mother was praying. She didn't know why her baby was broken. And as a mother now, especially a mother of adult children, when so many things are happening out of my control now, to your children, around my kids, my daughter just went through a situation with a so-called best friend, that as a mom, I want to go kick in his door. You understand what I'm saying? But she's a grown woman. You feel me? I can't go out there and fight her battles like she was 13. So you got to sit back and watch your child suffer And there's nothing you can do about it. You just look at your baby. It's almost like you can, if you can jump into their head, make them see what you see, make them feel what you feel. But you can't. You got to do the work and let them find it on their own, which is so not easy at all. But it's necessary. It's absolutely necessary. Being diagnosed with a mental disorder for a long time, I hated it. I hated being bipolar. I hated God for allowing me to be bipolar. And it didn't stop there. Oh no. Because see, my paperwork says that I am diagnosed with bipolar disorder, borderline schizophrenic, schizoaffective disorder, manic depressive disorder. This is on, and I have over 20 years of in and out of mental hospital. By the grace of God, I have not touched not one hospital in almost 10 years. God, it's amazing to even think, to know that. And in almost 10 years, I have not stepped one foot. I had to recognize that it was not a curse, that God wasn't cursing me. In fact, it was such a huge gift because I see the world in a way that most people, unless you live with this disorder, will never understand. I feel it in a way that most people could never feel it. I've learned to understand that a mental disorder was just given that because it was something that people didn't understand. I feel like people who live in this world are more closer to the spiritual realm than others. I know that for me, trying to hurt myself over 30 times, the only thing I wouldn't do was cut myself. And I don't know if that was a way of God, because I'm not that chick. Like, I just couldn't see myself. Like, I really just wanted to go to sleep and not. I didn't want my children had to see blood. I didn't want none of that, So I just wanted to go to sleep. And every time, I'm going to tell you though, the very last time, and the reason why it was my very last attempt is because God showed up and showed me that if I ever did it again, it will be over. Guys, I'll never forget this day. I was in a terrible relationship. I didn't know how to get out. And his mental abuse was causing me to be physically abusive because I'm crazy. And yes, I stand on crazy. I love being crazy. I know there's a stigma, around it. Don't call yourself that. I am crazy. I am loud, easy, and stand out the box. And I'm with what you call that? Acronym. I think I'm saying it right. But I'm gonna for crazy. I am, because what we say, how we choose to say it, the intentions behind our words that we say, it is and forever will be true. So if I choose to want to look as crazy as it being a negative thing, then that's what it'll always be. And so when I react to a certain way, or I do a certain thing, or for me just being myself, and for somebody else they say, girl, you crazy. If I don't take that in as it being a compliment as opposed to being a negative thing, well, honey, I will never get out of the bed. And I ain't doing that. I ain't doing that. One of the greatest gifts that I ever got was being introduced to psychotherapy. Because of psychotherapy, I'm not on psych meds. I haven't been on psych meds in many years. I do the work. I meditate daily. I write down my feelings. I recognize the emotions. I be honest about my feelings. I speak on it when I need to speak on it. When I don't, I don't. Is it hard? Absolutely. I said on another podcast episode, when I go manic, I clean. When I go manic, I'll do something productive. So when I come down off that mania, the choices that I made during that manic doesn't allow me to fall into depression. Guys, I can't even tell you, it changed my life when I chose to stand up out of a mindset of depression. I had to make a choice. I had to decide that I wasn't going to allow this thing to continually to keep beating me, right? The fact of the matter is that I had to become responsible for myself and my feelings, because like I said in the beginning, don't nobody cares. Like the bills, your landlord don't care. The bill man don't care. You understand what I'm saying? When your children need some sneakers, they don't understand that mommy can't get out of the bed. And because at one point in time, we didn't understand it, we didn't recognize it, we didn't know the word for it. But today we do, and we can't keep using excuses. But we have to become responsible for those feelings, for those emotions, for feeling crazy. You got to be responsible for it. You know? And stand in it. I'll tell a person, if I'm overreacting, my bad, but this is how I feel. I stand on it. I'm expressive. That's who I am. I'm animated. That's who I am. If you taking it personal, I apologize. Because see, I'm going to continually to be my authentic self. But I'm not going to allow my disability to be an excuse on why I can't live the greatest life a girl can ever ask for. Okay? Now listen, I'm going to take a second to ask each and every one of you, if you enjoying this content, if you have enjoyed it so far, if you're getting meaning from it, if you're watching a replay, you may not be watching a live. If you're watching a replay and this podcast is doing something for you, please, I would love for you to subscribe, leave a comment, share. Please support the podcast in any way you can. It's surprising. I'm realizing that giving me a thumbs up, you can do that before you subscribe. You need to watch me a little bit more before you commit. I get it. But if you enjoy this podcast episode, give me a thumbs up. Okay? So that you can let YouTube know that your girl is here to stay, darling. All right. And if you see, I changed the scroll on the bottom. Just if you want to send me a love offering, I will certainly appreciate it. It will support the channel. I'm hoping that this broadcast is coming off a whole lot better than normal. Normal, I'm having a lot of technical difficulties, but I increased my broadband internet, and I'm just gonna walk out on faith. Like I did it one time, and I went through this fear. I went through this fear of having to scramble and I didn't want to lose my internet. You know, I went from having free internet to having to pay for it. Because when you're on disability, honey, you get all kinds of little benefits. I'm just saying. If you're on disability, I'm going to take advantage of everything that is offered to me. Okay? Wow, doing the work I need to do to change my life and build wealth. All right? Period. Like, period. That is what your girl is doing and going to keep doing every week. So, but I also had to realize, especially when I was editing videos that I was recording, that it wasn't working, y'all. It wasn't working. It was not working. So I had to do what was best. I had to do what was best. So what was best was to upgrade my broadband and to have better Wi-Fi so that I can have it can be a better podcast experience for you. All right. So please support the channel. I really need it. Your girl is still on Social Security, still on food stamps. Okay. You're subscribed. I need you to subscribe though, because we need to get that subscription up right? I need to, so girl can get monetized, right? So we need to, will be working on the giveaway. It is opening up. I know I tell you about Chrissy the artist is because I'm an artist. And my YouTube channel, Chrissy's Arts and Crafts and Designs, will be opening back up. I do not have a launch date yet, but we are working towards opening up. And that's going to be live, y'all. Every Saturday, we are going to create some art. Yes, y'all. We are going to get creative. We're going to take recycle and turn into absolutely beautiful art that don't look like some cheap stuff that your kids did in arts and crafts. Nope. We talking grown folks art, grown folks crafting. Okay, so you keep that in mind because we will be getting into that real shortly. All right, so all right, so like I said, living with a mental disorder, I'm gonna tell y'all how much don't nobody care. My housing right now that I'm living in, my subsidy is for people with mental disorders of all kinds, and we know there's some as far as, schizophrenic, multiple personality disorder, another thing that I was diagnosed with. Yeah, multiple personality disorder, but as well as people having all kinds. You see, talking to themselves, hearing voices. There's so many different spectrums, right? And I'm grateful for the spectrum that I'm at, to be honest with you. I understand that feeling like you hearing voices or you're not in your right mind. A lot of times you get diagnosed and they start giving you medication, and the medication enhances it. The medication makes it worse. During the time I heard the most voices is when I was on the most medications. And what kills you about these medications is that you have so many side effects from the medication. They're not giving you medications to counteract the side effects. But what happens to that medication to counteract the side effects to that side effect on that medication? What's going to counteract that? Guys, there was a time I looked on my dresser and I'm every bit of 23 years old. How I got about 15 to 20 medications all for my brain. All for my brain. I'm supposed to be this damn crazy? Come on. Y'all, when I took some psychotherapy. See, psychotherapy, let me say this. If you are going through something, the first step I would suggest to anybody is to do talk therapy. Is to do talk therapy first. Find you a therapist and talk. Get the things out of your body. Get it out of your system. Get it out of your energy. Get it out of your soul. Go sit down and talk to a therapist to help guide you out of the darkness. And then once you get up out the darkness, now you need tools. Now you need to talk to your therapist about psychotherapy. For me, it was called DBT, Dialectical Behavior Therapy. Look it up. The best thing that ever happened to me. That's how I learned mindfulness techniques. That led me to now I meditate daily. But it started from me just being mindful. You understand what I'm saying? Recognizing your triggers, realizing when I'm being too emotional, or if I'm being too, you have some people that's like too logical, like Sheldon. You feel what I'm saying? The Asperger's syndrome, where everything is, you feel what I'm saying? And it helps you pull yourself into a space of wisdom. And that's called the wise mind. It pulls you in a space for me and my spiritual walk is my third eye. When I choose to take the time instead of sitting in it for days on end, I give myself a time space. So I would say this, whatever situation that happened, depending on how traumatic it is. Let's say it's the passing of a loved one. If it's someone's really close to me, give me like a week. Let me get it together. But I refuse to spend that whole week in the bed, because death is a part of life. I have to get to the point of radical responsibility, radical acceptance. These are the things you learn from DBT, right? One of my favorite prayers is the Serenity Prayer. And even though I was very much addicted to many different drugs, I am not a person who does NA, never was. Not my thing. Thank God that, God healed me in other ways. But learning the Serenity Prayer is something I say to this very day, because a lot of times we hold on to things that we have zero control over, and there's nothing we can do about. And a part of our depression and living with depression is feeling like you got all these things going on in your life and you have no control. Then to understand that the food we eat contributes to our depression. The things we drink contributes to our depression. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like it's so many things that's completely outside of our control. It's controlling your thoughts, your feelings, and your emotions. Learning DBT, learning dialectical behavior therapy, I learned the importance of mindfulness practicing, meditating, smoking a Dutch. Do you understand what I'm saying? Taking some shrooms if need be. One thing I love about shrooms, it pulls you out. Like you smiling, you don't even know why you smiling. Why am I so happy? Why am I so happy? You have no clue. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like literally the mental health medication that God already created for us, and because the government want their money, they choose to keep making this crap in a lab, telling you they know what they doing, when nobody can tell you about the brain. Nobody. It's still a mystery. And the human's been alive for hundreds of thousands of years, and the human brain is still a mystery. But yet we're willing to take these man-made pills for something they still ain't figure out. So when DBT came along for me, the more I learned, the more I understood that I was the driver of this car. I am the driver of this car, and sometimes I might need to pull over and let it rest. It needs a tune up. It needs to be checked. It needs oil change. Sometimes I might have to get under the undercarriage. I might have to change those wheels because something's flat. You feel what I'm saying? There ain't no more fluid in the water. I done cried all the cried. I can cry. Ain't no more fluid in there. But I gotta fill it up. I gotta fill it up. I am the only driver of this vehicle, so I have to decide if I'm going to drive myself to hell or to heaven. I have to choose, and no matter what, because life is going to happen. Things is going to happen out of your control. It's so much happier living in peace on purpose, and not allowing a temporary emotion to feed into all these words that other humans put on me. I believe that I definitely have these disorders because I live with them and I dealt with them. But I also understand and know that if I do the work, not just for myself, but the people around me, I made people's lives miserable. My mother hated when I woke up. She loved me. But she had no clue. She didn't understand it. I was angry. I was mean. I was vicious. I told y'all one episode that my sister, she has a mark under her neck. I have no memory of hurting her. But it's so enough real for her. And it took her years to heal and forgive me for that. But I had to do the work. I had to decide, do I want to be a 16-year-old crackhead? Yeah, a 60-year-old crackhead. Because I certainly was snorting enough powder that if I didn't stop at any given time, I'd have crossed that line. I think the only reason why I didn't is because I was selling crack at 15. And see, when you seen crack in the early 90s, no. That's the only reason. But I had to decide. I had to decide to say, you know what, Christina Ruth, enough is enough, honey. Are you going to become Christina Butterfly? Or you are going to have the wings, or you going to just keep crawling around out here? Are you just going to keep me crawling around out here? You can't get no lower than a caterpillar. You can't get no lower than a caterpillar. But when a caterpillar makes that decision and decide to say, you know what, it's about that time. It's about that time for me to elevate. It's about that time for me to morph. It's about that time for me to turn into what I am always been destined to be. Because see, when a caterpillar is born, it's always destined to be a butterfly. That goes without saying. You just don't know when. So I decided that I am going to be a butterfly. I'm not going to keep continuing to crawl around on the ground and keep accepting scraps from people to throw me the scraps. And I say, thank you. I no longer refuse to do that. Just because I grew up in poverty, grew up in the hood, live currently on low income, low subsidy, I have learned and understood that my mind, my destiny, who I am, I decided. And if I decide that when I die, I'm going to be a multimillionaire, then guess what? When I die, my bank account will have multi-millions in it. Period. There is no other options. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. All the hell that I've been through in my life, I know for sure that God had a purpose and a reason for it. And if it's for me to sit on this podcast every week to help heal, to send love, to let you know that you are not alone. If you know what it is to live with mental disorders, please send me your story. I will always welcome to hear your story. You can write me at becomingabutterflypod@gmail.com. I am so looking forward to hearing. I can't wait to hear the first person who writes me. I can't wait to sit down and be able to read their story on my podcast. That's how I know. That's when that happens, y'all. I'm going to be like, I'm here. I'm here. If you are watching me on Facebook, and I am so grateful that you have stuck through with us, sister, and you are watching and supporting, please, if you feel so obliged to, send your girl a star. Let me know that you love and appreciate my podcast. Anything you send me supports the podcast so that I can show up each and every week and bring content to you. I am going to end it. We're almost at an hour. I do have some updates about Thursday episode. Unfortunately, we will not have podcast episode 8 air. Went to go edit it, and it had no sound, y'all. No sound. It was absolutely hashed through the entire video. And so I just say, you know what, Lord? Well, this is why you had put me in a mindset of going live every week, because things happen, you know, and I have to learn. Like, this is the first time I'm doing this. This is my first year, and your girl, you know, I'm gonna be here for a while. I'm gonna be showing up here for a few years with you. So I'm gonna learn, and you know, listening to those videos a lot sooner, you know, so I know that what I was doing went through, you know, testing it. It's just so many things, you know. So, but it will not be episode 8 will not be airing. I probably will re-record the video, but yeah, it won't be like episode 8 or anything. So we will be back here next week. We'll be back here for our live next week, and we'll be back here for episode 9 next week. And I will be excited. I love each and every one of my butterflies. If you are a supporter of the channel, please put butterflies in the chat. That's what I want to see. That's what I need to see. If you are watching the replay, thank you so much. Please take the time to to click the like button, to subscribe to the channel, to share this video, send it to someone who you feel like they can use it. It can help them. And please leave a comment if it encouraged you any kind of way. All right. I love you so much. And always remember, nothing, absolutely nothing is happening to you, but everything in life that's going on in your life is happening for your greater good. All right. I love each and every one of you. And I see you right back here next week on Becoming a Butterfly Podcast, the place where it's never too late to become your better self. You guys have a beautiful